My name is Stonesy Boy, and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Still don't know what to call this. I really don't. But we're back to reading Lonely Freddy. Meg, I know it's great that you and Ian are always. Well, yeah, I remember this. And then goes down to there. Gigi, I love you. Gigi, I love you. His mom said. I'm sensing a butt here, Aunt Gigi said. But if one more person tells me how to raise my kids, I'm gonna scream, his mom said. To her credit, Aunt Gigi was silent after that. I just want us to be a family, an actual family, Alex's mom said. I just want us to be a family, an actual family, his mom said, and he thought she never sounded more tired than she did right then. Congratulations, Aunt Gigi said dryly. You are one. As Alex stood to sneak off to his room, he heard his mom laugh at Aunt Gigi's joke, though there was really nothing funny about it. Just like Hazel, Alex's mom had everything she wanted, but still wanted more. She wanted the perfect kids with the perfect manners and the perfect house. It wasn't enough for Hazel to have all the things in the world and the most epic party every single year for her birthday. She had to have a stupid fox too. Why? Because the one thing she didn't have in her spoiled life. Well, Alec understood now. He saw his sister for the entitled fake Hazel she really was. She'd done her level best to make him out to be the spoiled one, so all he wouldn't ruin her stupid special party day. Nice try, sis, he thought. He could feel. Hold on. Something stuck in my eye. He could feel an outer shell harden around his rapidly beating heart. Nice try, but you're in quite for a surprise on party day. His counter plan was in full swing. Alex's parents were about to crack. Hazel had only been kidding that night. She asked if Alex thought they would break him. But it seems her question was rooted in at least a little reality. They were barely holding it together on Thursday. By Thursday, Alec and Hazel had tormented them within an inch of their lives. Alec brought home a pet wolf spider, and Hazel had set it free in their parents' bed. Alec, helpfully, ordered a pizza for dinner, but Hazel secretly added double anchovies under the cheese. A friendly game of charades initiated by Alec ended with their mom practically in tears as the word goat came up, and Hazel mimed what mom smells like. Friday was more of a blur, with their dad doing all he could to keep the peace the day before Hazel's party. Even though neither of his parents were feeling particularly celebratory toward their golden Hazel. It has to be hormonal or something, they could hear their dad say as Alec and Hazel eavesdropped from their perch on the top of the stairs. She's probably nervous about making sure all of her little friends have fun at the party. Ian, I woke up last night to a spider the size of my palm crawling through my hair, her mom said, her voice wavering as she neared tears an umpteenth time at the week. Oh man, I thought they found that yesterday, Alec whispered, and flinched as a stab of actual guilt hit his gut. They did. I rescued it. Alec stared at the stranger he thought was his sister. His resolve toward the expedition her may have doubled, but he didn't deny he was genuinely impressed. He could have really disasters. You couldn't have thought up the half of the mini disaster she'd let loose in the house over the past week. He found himself laminating over the return to their separate islands once this whole ruse was over, regardless of the reasons or the double and triple crossing at play. He was going to miss her. He couldn't remember the last time he felt such a close camaraderie to this little stranger. Maybe he couldn't remember because he'd never actually had one before. Saturday morning, their parents did something they hadn't done in years. They let Alec and Hazel sleep for as long as they wanted. Hazel woke up much earlier than Alec, but she chose to stay in her room, playing quietly until Alec finally woke up at 9 o'clock. As soon as the bed springs creaked, he rose to sit on the edge of the bed. He heard Hazel's soft footstep padding from her bedroom to this. The bathroom door creaked open, and she entered his room as a casualness that would have been unheard 7 days ago. Big day, Alex said, studying her face for a reaction. He'd expect excitement or smugness, maybe even a twinge of guilt that at all the torture they'd put their parents through, the sort of practice she wasn't accustomed to, no matter how much she had decided she wanted to be a little less golden. He didn't see any of that on her face, though. He saw the usual evenly spaced freckles, the wide, light green eyes, the perfect blonde ringlets that haloed her head, and there was something else that was impossible to believe it was anything other than abject sadness. "You're about to get everything you want," he said, scrutinizing her, but she gave nothing anyway. "Yup, yup," she said, though it was clear she didn't agree. "You know, after this, you could probably go back to being nice, and they'll totally forgive you," he said. He, on the other hand, could go back to being the usual rotten stuff after this. He'd received 0 credit for having a decent Jewish family for the last week. Yeah, you're probably right," she said, taking a seat on the carpet beside his bed. As she started to pick on the lint in the rug, Alex started to wonder if that's what she wanted, to go back to being the good one. And he was surprised to find that regardless of what she wanted, it was what he wanted. All this plotting and counterplotting was getting exhausting. The thought he could outplay his sister and protect his status as the bad egg, and maybe he still could. But anyway, what was it all for anyway? So he could keep himself exiled to his own little island in the house? Had it really been that bad hanging out with her for the last week? She started to stand up and walk toward the door, avoiding eye contact with Alec. He found himself saying that he said next without even thinking. "I'm sorry, microphone." "Happy birthday," he said, and this time she did a turn to look at him, and she smiled, though it was real. He did hard to think it was anything other than that. His morning had been very confusing. There's stars. The party was barely controlled chaos had been in the previous years. Kids standing on chairs, rubbing balloons. Maybe the stars mean like parts you can skip towards. Like if it's on the bottom of the page, you skip from that page, and then you keep going forward until you see the top 3. Maybe. Okay, whatever. Kids standing on chairs, rubbing balloons on one another's heads to create static. Parents calling out, "Where's Jimmy? Anyone seen Jimmy?" Freddy Fazbear staff apparently sidestepping spilled orange drink on fielding requests for more ranch dressing. Amid the chaos, Alec could see 1 or 2 kids from the party walking around the restaurant with a 2-foot-long lonely Freddy in tow. It might have been cute if it hadn't been so creepy. Watching its not so quite tall, but not so quite short bear follow its friend around. Listening and waiting for cues before acting naturally. An Aunt Gigi comment may have rung a little too true for Alec's comfort, but that day he saw the truth in all of the baldness. The kids who played too rough with noses crusted around the nostrils, whose faces twisted into soured frowns, were the ones followed by the bears and no one else. Hazel wasn't quite the golden Hazel she'd been in previous years. She was more or less back to her old self. She politely thanked her friends for buying her gifts. She acted like she wasn't expecting. She helped her mom pass cake around with all the guests and her parent before taking a bite herself. She spent equal time to each kid who attended, making sure to let anyone feel left out as they breezed from game to game in the arcade. Alex sat in a corner and played his role of the sulking teenage older brother. By all rights, if he wanted one, he easily could have earned his own lonely Freddy. In a strange turn of events, his parents seemed relieved to see everything return to its normal, inadequate existence. Whereas, where does that go? Sorry, I blinked for a second. I didn't know where it went. Whereas in previous years, they would have been urging him to go play with his sister, nudging him to smile, prodding him to help him drag the presents to the car. This year, they seemed just fine with allowing him to slouch in a chair and scowl for the partygoers. I think it's all going pretty well, don't you? His dad asked his mom and Aunt Gigi. Did anyone remind the staff that Charlotte can't have chocolate? I should probably go remind them, his mom said. It's going great, Aunt Gigi said, casting a sideways look at Alec, who simply shrugged. Oh, actually, it was going great. His sister was once again recognizable to her parents. The party only had an hour left until things were to wind down, and no one had gotten injured or poisoned. Oh no, we'll kick ass. All in all, a notable success. Except it wasn't a success. Alec hadn't been able to play his trump card yet, and he hadn't been able to play it because Hazel wasn't playing her part anymore. She'd done everything played. She'd done everything. Skee-ball, fought zombies in the virtual reality battleground, shot about 1 million baskets, watched 2 full performances of the FNAF Fazbear band, yet every time the party prepper had to come into the room trying to convince her to head over to the wind tunnel to snag a coupon for her prize, she found a reason not to go. Instead, she looked toward Alec, as though in some sort of silent standoff, and say to the party prepper, I don't know if I want to do that anymore, but honey, that's all you've been talking about for weeks. It's trying to win the Yarg Foxy, her mom would say, but the time she would blow the party prepper off and run away, play some other game with her friends. Aunt Gigi shrugged. Maybe she just doesn't want it anymore. Kids are fickle. Alec had been so prepared. He'd snuck away and nobody was looking. He sifted through the 3 full buckets of coupons, tickets, and confetti that clung to him like spiderwebs until he found a single Yarg Foxy ticket in the materials meant for the wind tunnel. He pocketed the coupon and gone without his sulking away, and no one was the wiser. But if Hazel wasn't going to take her turn in the wind tunnel, it was all for nothing. Alec realized that if he was going to expose her for the brat she is, he was going to have to take a more active role than he had been taking. Maybe she's afraid of being disappointed, he said to his mom. His mom said to him, that was crazy idea. Alec, you two have been getting along so famously lately. Maybe you should try to convince her. I'm just afraid he's going to leave today and regret not even trying. Sure thing, Mom, Alec said, laying down a little thick, but it fooled his mom, and she nodded approvingly as he headed toward the arcade to fetch his sister. He found her by the whack-a-mole tables. Hey, oh, Hazel, a word? He said, pulling her by the elbow with a sappy smile, while her friends distracted themselves. He found himself standing once again in the aisle between Fazbear stage and the arcade, only this time there was no creepy bear to stare blankly off into the distance. The platform of the bear had been removed, leaving only the impression of the carpet on front of a pillar. What gives? Alex said once they were out of the earshot. What do you mean? She actually had the nerve to say. Squirming out of the grip, she looked back to wave to her friends. I mean, you're back being perfect little Hazel, and Mom and Dad are catching on, he said, hoping she'd take the bait. What are you talking about? Mom and Dad are thrilled. Everything's back to normal. She seemed mad at him for some reason, but he wondered for a second if she'd figured his plan out to expose her was a phony. Which is maybe why she played his hand a little too aggressively. You know, the party's almost over. You're going to go home without your stupid toy. If you don't get it in the wind tunnel, she shrugged, looking down. Her freckles practically disappeared under her flushed cheeks. Maybe I don't need the toy anymore, she said. Of course you do, he said, unleashing the full magnitude of his anger. She was clearly doing everything she could to push him to his limit. You're not going to get everything you want forever. Soon you're going to get older, and you won't be so precious. Then who's going to like you? In all of her 10 years outside of the infant months, Alec had never seen his sister cry. Maybe she had thrown a fit or two when she was a toddler, but he always found better places to be when that sort of drama went down. But in that moment, for reasons he couldn't begin to understand, he watched as her light green eyes rippled through in tears. And though she wouldn't let him spill to her cheeks, he could tell it was momentary effort on her part to keep them in. Fine, she said, and not a word more. She shoved past him and walked straight toward through the crowd of her friends in the arcade toward the party room, greeting her mom and dad and aunt with nary a smile before demanding to let into the wind tunnel. Oh, yes, okay, her mom said, not with the enthusiasm she'd been counting on, but she was quick to take action. She's ready for the wind tunnel, she called out to the Freddy staff, like they're her ladies in waiting. I'm gonna stop that there. That's page 131. We're not done with the book yet. We are only in the halfway point because every 10 pages is a drink break. I keep saying this each episode because if you're a new viewer, then you wouldn't know unless you were watching the what's it called. Anyways, I usually run a theory around now, and suffice to say, I don't have one. My throat's just like dead dry. It's right now, as a matter of fact, 8:04. So I'm decently tired because I woke up at 6. If I woke up at 8, I wouldn't be tired. But I wouldn't get any videos out today if I woke up at 8. So, because I would usually stay in bed till 8:30. So my room at all times at 60 degrees. Also, I'm lazy. The cold keeps me asleep. When I was littler, this should go on a story time with 70, but we're not doing that. When I was smaller, I could not sleep for, I could only sleep for, 30 minutes before I'm back up, dead tired, but I can't go back to sleep. And that's why I never used the blanket when I slept, because I liked it. I like the cold. So that's the general only way I could sleep. But now I have an air conditioner, and 60 degrees at all times is nice. Makes me relaxed. Doesn't make me angry. Two employees prepped the chamber by emptying the buckets of game tickets and coupons and sticky cell phone confetti into the top of the tube, before flipping the switch to activate the strobe light that couldn't be looked at for too long without causing a touch of nausea. Another flip of the switch and the wind in the tunnel was activated, sending the assortment of paper and mildly whirling through the tube, mixing up the prize coupons in the dizzying frenzy. They switched the machine off again, then rather unceremoniously grabbed Hazel by the wrist and pulled her through the little entrance door of the tube. The strobe lights reactivated and mossed to a flickering flame. Her friends migrating from the arcade back into the party room to witness the birthday girl's tornado of potential prizes. "Are you ready?" asked an employee. Hazel simply nodded, and Alec watched with measured awe as the storm kicked up around her, whipping her golden curls in front of her face, momentarily obscuring behind the chaos. "Grab the tickets!" her friends screamed from behind Alec. Oh, the Arc Foxy coupon. It's right there, baby. It's right there," his mom hollered, jumping up and down as though that could help. But Alec knew better. He touched the side of the jeans in the pocket. A single crinkled Arc Foxy coupon resided. Hazel barely reacted to the screams, though. She held her hands out hazardly, making minimal attempts to grasp any of the frenzied papers that flitted in and out of her fingers. "Is she okay?" their dad asked, to into the chaos of the tube. "Don't you think she's gonna puke? You don't think she's gonna puke, do you?" "Oh boy, that would be a mess," Aunt Gigi said, and Alec would stifle a snort. Come on, Hazel, he shouted above the crowd, pretending to cheer along with him. Get that certificate, get that fox. But it was no use either. She couldn't hear, or she simply didn't care. When the wind tunnel timer buzzed, Freddy Fazbear Associates dutifully pulled the plug, and the storm inside the enclosure came to an abrupt end. Okay, boys and girls, the employee shouted into the microphone. Let's see what the party girl has won. The kids of the party pushed and shoved toward the cylinder with Hazel inside it. She sidestepped with her greedy hands and snatched at the free tickets like they were actual dollar bills. Well, Hannah, what have we got? Said the employee. It's Hazel. It's Hazel, Aunt Gigi corrected. Okay, said the employee, ignoring Aunt Gigi and stepping dramatically over Hazel as she cast him very work. Let's see here. She handed him all the papers she had reluctantly grasped against her body, allowing him to sift through the various coupons and announce each one like she'd won the lottery. 1 free fountain drink, a bonus round of the Sky Dunk. 1, no, make that 2 promotional Freddy Fazbear character cups. As the employee came to an end of the stack Hazel had captured, their mother started to shift nervously. She didn't get the fox, Alec heard her fret to her dad. Meg, relax. She doesn't even want it anymore. Yes, she does, Ian. She's trying to be a big girl. Well, Hannah, that's quite a haul, the employee said when she read all the prizes. Hazel! Hazel! Aunt Gigi yelled. At this time, the announcer looked over her shoulder long enough to cast her a sidelong glance. Hazel! He corrected, grimacing at Aunt Gigi, who smiled her and faked a smile back. Wait! Screamed a girl named Charlotte, who couldn't eat chocolate. Look in her hair! Sure enough, as her friend spun in the side, Hazel's curls cradled a small glittery ticket that looked different than any other she managed to capture in the tunnel, but Alec recognized it immediately. It's the Yarg Foxy! It's the Yarg Foxy! Screamed Charlotte. It's not possible, Alec thought. Anger burbled in the pits of his stomach, began to churn, ready to erupt at any second. He remembered the tube before the wind tunnel and turned on. There had been little scraps in there before from the last round, and a small pile of glittery confetti and tickets. A single Yarg Foxy coupon must have been hiding, waiting to be kicked up again in renewed wind. Alec was certain she hadn't meant for it, too, but Hazel's face completely transformed. It was only for a fraction of the second, but she was looking at her at just the right time. In that split second, she saw her utter relief at having the one prize she was determined not to want when the day came to get it. And no one would get to see the epic tantrum of Golden Hazel, the girl who had everything but didn't get the fox. That's right, boys and girls, Hazel has won her very own Yarg Foxy, the announcer cried, but the kids from the party practically went into convulsions. They followed the employee all the way back to the fries counter and swarmed it as he lifted the box of Yarg Foxy from the highest shelf, bestowing it upon Hazel like she'd been crowned the queen. What a relief, her mom sighed, falling back into a chair. Alec looked at her like she'd just grown a second head. A relief? It's a joke, he said, and she scowled at Alec. How can you say that? You know how much she wanted that toy. Does it look like she wants the stupid toy? He groused, still furious that Hazel was doing all, and she had to hide the fact that she was a spoiled one. Alec watched the unbox the fox and held it in her hand, smiling at it like it was some sort of long-forgotten treasure. Let me see, her friends begged, but Hazel smiled shyly and shook her head. Honey, why don't you want to play with it? Their dad asked, but Hazel simply demurred, and still, it wasn't until her friends had lost interest and migrated back toward the arcade their mom finally pulled Hazel aside. Sweetie, what is it? Why don't you want the fox anymore? She asked, but Alec just about had all she could take. Of course not. She gets everything she wants, and she's still not satisfied. But isn't it sad that Hazel doesn't want the fox anymore? Alec bellowed. He mocked. He sneered. But no one was listening. That's when Hazel excused herself for a good long while. It had to have been the last 10 minutes. I told you she was going to throw up, their dad said. I'll go check on her. But as he was headed back to the room where Hazel had disappeared, she reappeared with the fox, still clutching it in her hands like it was suddenly very important to her after all. Hazel, sweetie, are you feeling okay? Their mom asked, stroking Hazel's curls, and suddenly Hazel didn't look so glum and distracted or nauseous to hear their dad tell it. Instead, she leaned to her mom and whispered something that made her mom practically melt into a little puddle, right there on the Freddy Fazbear's floor. Then their mom did something unexpected. Alec, come here, hon, she said, and Alec eyed them both suspiciously. To be fair, so did their dad and Aunt Gigi. Just come here, her mom said, rolling her eyes, but she was still smiling. Alec approached his mom and sister with caution, and he had a distinct impression that he was going into a trap. Go on, Hazel. Tell him what you've told me, their mom said. Hazel looked mortified. Her face was practically buried in the plush box. Look at you, shy as ever. Okay, I'll just tell him right here, her mom cooed. But Alec was about to climb out of his skin. What the heck are you doing? He whispered through gritted teeth. He was so close. I'm gonna record like this. Yeah, this is a lot more comfy. Just leaning back in a chair. Microphone's still in front of me, so the audio's not changed. What the heck are you doing? He whispered through the gritted teeth. He was so close to beating his sister at her own game. No, his own game. Hold on. I had a slight feeling. Nope, I'm good. Okay. I got this feel like somebody's watching me. No, his own game. This was his to win. Nothing, she said. I don't want to do this anymore. Do what? Alex said, growing nervous. He looked up at his parents, but didn't appear they heard anything. I don't want to pretend to be bad anymore. It was just to get you to like me. Alec was speechless. Huh? Here, she said, shoved the yard foxy into his chest. It's for you. Aw, sweetie, look, their mom said, and their dad slushed her, but her parents and Aunt Gigi continued to stare. You can't be serious, Alex said. I only wanted it so I could give it to you, she said. What the heck am I going to do with a stupid fox? He asked. No, he demanded. This was all just too much. How had she so expertly bested him? I wanted you to stop hating me so much. Just take it, okay? She said and shoved it into his chest. None of this was working out of the way it was supposed to. She was supposed to miss out on the fox, throw an epic fate, and he just drew he'd been storing up inside all week. And when his parents and all her friends saw her, the spoiled brat she really was. Life should have gone back to the way Alec had enjoyed it before. For him to act in relative obscurity, without a burden of Golden Hazel's constant goodness. But now she had the fox, and what was she doing? She was giving it to him, an act of utter sainthood. She was giving her most prized possession to him. She's won it for him, because she knew how much he'd always wanted one. She just checkmated. No, he said, flinging the fox back to her. No, I don't want it. Alec, what sort of way is that to act towards your sister? She's giving you her gift on her birthday, her mom cried. She's such a phony. Can't you people see that? She's the worst kind of spoiled, bratty fake. No, bratty fake blonde. Oh, come on now. How can you not see that? Alec was ranting now. It was all he could do to keep his head from spinning from his neck, exorcist style. You want me to take the fox? He said, and he could only guess by the way his mother looked at him. He looked positively maniacal. Okay, fine, I'll take the fox. He ripped the toy back from his sister's grasp hard enough to tear an arm, sending the soft tufts of stuffing floating into the air. Her mother let out an involuntary shriek, and Aunt Gigi put her hand on her sister's shoulder. Meg, get a grip. You're making this worse. Their dad tried to make it better. Oh, come on, sport. Don't do this today. Oh, I see. Because I'm too predictable that Alec would ruin this party. So inevitable that Alec would spoil perfect little Hazel's good time, he said, snarling at his family, who would only look back at him in horror. All of them, that is, except for Hazel. Hazel simply stood there, arms lipped at her sides as she stared at him. And there they were, the tears. She hadn't let them fall out earlier. She saved it all up for this moment, when she had the perfect audience. That's when the floodgates opened. And even still, she only let a few fall. I can't take it anymore. Alec raged and carried by the worst wind by the truly possessed. He fled the scene to the worst crime yet. He brought the whole party crashing down around him, just as they'd all predicted he would. He'd done his very best to the better of his sister, and in the end, she still won. If that wasn't enough, she actually made him believe, for the briefest moment, that she was really was good as she pretended to be, but that she wanted to be his friend. Pounding a pass through the pizzeria, Alec whistled past confused-looking staff and his sister's gang of friends to one or two lonely Freddy bears, barely registering any of it, including Hazel's friends. Charlotte was about to puke because someone had ignored all the warnings about a contrary and fed her chocolate. He didn't stop running until he'd pushed himself through at least 3 sets of doors and left the cacophony? I don't know what that is. Cacophony of kids and games and the bells and singing behind him. He was somewhere in the cramped maze of the back rooms that made the inner workings of FNAF Fazbear's family pizzeria. He slowed as he walked as he tried to catch his breath, but it wasn't until he come completely standstill that he realized why it could have come to an exhale. It's because he kept gulping air in. It was because he was sobbing, like a little kid, just like a spoiled brat. He backed against the wall and threw his shoulders against it, once and then again, tucking his chin to his chest and let his shoulders absorb all the shock. It was not my fault, he said again and again. It's not my fault. The more he heard his pathetic words in his ears, the more he knew they weren't true. It was his fault, all of it. He ruined the party, ruined Hazel, ruined his whole 15 years by believing everyone was out to get him. He closed his eyes and threw his shoulders again and again against the wall, and he pictured Hazel's watery eyes, the lines ceasing at his mom's forehead, his dad's head shaking in disappointment. Finally, he tired himself out enough to stop slamming against the wall, only to realize it wasn't a wall at all. It was a door, and that he thought the sound was his own tantrum, but it was actually a sound coming from the other side of the door. Something that sounded like loud thumping. Huh. Well, isn't that funny? It's page 140. What a great place to leave it off for suspense reasons. So that's that. 33 minutes is pretty good, especially for, like, reading. Sorry if I sounded tired. I did mumble a couple words, which is on me. But, next episode, we're gonna be recording FNAF 3. It's now, like, 8:35, 8:20. And, I gotta record more. I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Don't die to coronavirus. Next episode is the last episode of Lonely Freddy, because we did number 3 just now, and next episode's number 4. Next episode should be longer than usual. Only added 3 instead of like 5 or any other this time, so it's a lot easier. But hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day, and see you later. Skibby deep buddy beep bop.